Start writing a new chapter, I try to romanticize the process as much as I possibly can, and that usually means being really indulgent, starting with a song quote. My process is to use Scrivener, and I edit in Microsoft Word. I really recommend Scrivener. It just has so many cool features. It has a little notes section here in the synopsis that I've blocked off because it has enormous spoilers on it, and a load of other notes that I arrow down, but this is where I keep a little track list of my content warnings as I go, as well as notes for myself. And it doesn't look like much, honestly, but I really do recommend Scrivener because it's fantastic. Using your process and making it pleasurable and something that you really enjoy is really essential. And so something that I tend to do as well, whenever I can feel myself kind of not losing interest, but losing impetus in terms of updating a chapter, I will usually switch point of view. Of writing this chapter, this was an enormous chapter and it took so much to write it because I knew it was going to be so long, and it's really good for me, it's really healthy for me to switch points of view and to just absolutely channel something completely different, just completely unique for myself. And so I like to surprise myself, and this is what I did with this chapter. What I'm doing for the first time in Touched is I'm doing parts in terms of a recurring song lyric. So whenever this song comes back, it's moving the plot forward, and it's only going to come back one more time after this song, because this was really the inspiration for much of the elements of transformation in Touched. So this is the first time I'm using part 1, part 2, part 3 to indicate plot. Reiterate again, but there will be spoilers here because I am talking about the entire chapter 5 of Touch. We're doing behind the scenes. So the use of the Doomsday lyric here is very essential for writing the little Chrissy point of view that we got. And I knew I was going to do Chrissy for a while. I knew I was going to bring her in, and she's kind of essential to the story in terms of rewriting season 4 the way that I want to rewrite it, and I really want to bring her in as a character. She's somebody that I got to explore a little bit in Blackout Days, and I didn't get to explore as much as I would have wanted. I'm going to even do her point of view a little bit more again. We're going to do several other points of view, but again, I recommend so much the use of song lyrics because they just look so pretty to me, and it's kind of like an aesthetic boost whenever I feel a little bit drained or low, or it starts to feel kind of like math work almost. I'll just put some music in here, and it's always really boosting for me to just write something absolutely awful and kind of shocking, and something that will have people screaming. That cheers me up always. Really important part of my process is to always have music and to try and get immersed as possible in a chapter, because for me immersion is essential. There are a lot of authors who don't do that, but for me it's absolutely, I need songs, I need music, and I need the setting. And something else about me is that I make a stunning amount of mistakes as I tend to go. I just make so many mistakes as I write because I write so fast and I get so lost in it and I get so wrapped up in what I'm writing. I kind of accept the fact that I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and I have a very good editing system in Microsoft Word, which I'll share in a minute. But another thing that I use that enables me to write faster and to have deeper immersion is kind of this thing that I do here, where I overuse commas and I encourage more than permit run-on sentences. I'm a really big fan of run-on sentences, and one of the first things I was ever taught was that you should never ever use run-on sentences, but I completely disagree. I love an enormous, big, beautiful kind of run-on sentences that just for me emulate the flow of water. So it's always really encouraging for me, and it adds a degree of excitement and kind of romance to my writing, and it really does just romanticize the process in going against everything that I kind of was taught about writing and about the publishing industry. And so just the overuse of run-on sentences. And I really have another thing that I love to do, the overuse of and the overuse again of commas to create kind of punctuation. And so we have here shrieks, giggles instead of shrieks and giggles, but down here we have blunted and human, and we just have so many examples of me using and to create flow and commas to create punctuation. So when I read it out, it has this really nice either choppy feel, or it has this beautiful flow feel. I love doing this, and I love overusing and I'll overuse and so aggressively. And part of it is my little internal fuck you to the publishing industry, which heavily discourages the use of and. Thing I'll try and do is, well, I don't try and do it, but I let myself do it because it's instinctive for me to make connections to my other fics and to make little references. But I also like to kind of get song titles in, song references wherever I can. It's really important for me to have a sense of identity in my writing, and to just let myself do whatever I want, with very, very little censorship. So you can see it myself. This is one of my favourite songs ever, Teeth Sinking In. It's a Nine Inch Nails reference. And there's just lots of little things, so many connections to other fics and other stories, because it makes me, it just is very encouraging, and it reminds me that I wrote and completed other works as well. So this is quite a direct We Should Just Kiss reference here, which I really, really like. And you have a great example again of my use of commas, which I really do enjoy overusing those. What else I really love to do, and it's not my trademark, but it's something I really enjoy, is kind of writing this other creature, this creature that sort of lives between them. So the bond here in chapter 5, we have it materialize almost like Little Bit. It's made of both of them, and it's far more comfortably housed in Steve, and it has many of Steve's kind of emerging personality traits as he embraces who he is, as he shifts more comfortably towards his divine feminine and finds his own elements of divine masculine and finds his own balance. But I love writing about this other creature, and I love writing dialogue for it. The first time I ever did this was actually in a different fic, but what we have here is kind of a balance between human and inhuman in terms of feeling the human emotions, but inhuman in how they express them. So I really love finding a very distinct voice for this other creature and finding voice for everybody else along the way, but making voice for the other creature is always very, very fun to me, and it will be a very specific way that they talk. Like with Little Bit, he has a very specific way of talking, and this Bond creature that's emerging has one too. Of this chapter that I struggled with was because it's setting up for things to come, and I don't like only focusing on parts of the story that are only setting up, so I always try and intertwine setup with incidents, with bonding with people. So usually if I have a bonding scene between two people, so we have this scene here with Max and Steve, which was actually my favourite thing to write so far in this chapter. And it's really important. It's setting up for other things in the future, but I like to intertwine it with bonding, with getting to know the characters, and usually with some humour. So if I'm ever writing a scene where there's bonding and humour, then I'm usually setting up for a 1-2 punch. This might be one of the most powerful scenes I ever wrote. It made me cry while I was writing it. I'm not sure why, because I've written sadder things and I've written things with a deeper level of empathy, but for some reason writing about the snake and Eddie seeing the snake and the whole scene with the lightning tree, it was just very, very powerful, and I did actually cry a little bit while I was writing it. I was very, very happy to explore this. I'm very excited because I say this all the time, but I never know how things are going to turn out when I initially start writing, and I never know where it's going to go. And this entire thing with the lightning tree and the snake, and then we get the little flash forward, which again, very, very exciting for me. Kind of hinting at events to come and giving us a time, an incident, and then the event. Really, really for me, it's always a beautiful big payoff and makes writing all the worth it.